If you want to make a game or you're already making one, but you're worried about the visuals for your game, then here's how I use AI to make all of the visuals for my game. So I want to start by giving context that I made my first game demo in just under 300 hours, and all of the images from the character portraits to the cutscenes to the combat backgrounds and much more was all made with AI. It was all made with ChatGPT and with the prompts that I gave it. So I just want to use this video as a way to give context and just show my process on how I did this. And again, right, whether you are someone who is interested in learning how to make a game, but perhaps you've got the worrying roadblock about how you're going to get the images and such, or whether you're in the process of making one and perhaps you're trying to figure that out, this video is for you. So let me walk you through the process so we're both on the same page. The first thing I want you to do is I want you to open ChatGPT and I want you to play around with making a image or so based on the art style that you're using or that you would consider using for your game. This is really important because what we want to do is we want to first get an image that we're happy with. For me, I changed my art style 3 or 4 times during the process because I should have been a bit clearer in the earlier stages, but here we are, where it went from a more gritty parchment style looking thing to more of a ultra realistic and I guess cinematic view of what is now there. Now, it's really important for you to make the image first, because once you've made a image that you're happy with, you can then copy and paste that. Or you can basically ask the GPT, right, can you now make me a in-depth prompt that I can give to a custom chat GPT that can make images in this art style, in this quality, so that it can look at that image and it can get all the details as opposed to you having to necessarily describe all of the detail that you're looking for. Now, you don't need a paid plan for ChatGPT to do that. You with a free plan, I believe you'll only be able to make 2, perhaps 3 images. So I would make the most of that. But if you're going to be wanting to make images and such more consistently, I recommend spending the £20 a month or whatever it is to get that paid plan, because you can make so many more images. It's much quicker and much more efficient. So that's the main thing. The second thing is I want to make sure that once you've made that and once you've got that prompt, you obviously want to then make your custom GPT, which for me, once I've got that prompt and I've got that, those set of instructions, I'm going to go to create a new GPT and I'm going to simply put in that prompt there. I'm going to name it and that will be that. The third thing as well, which really helps me, is in the custom GPT area, you can add knowledge, aka you can attach files to it and give it extra knowledge. Now, what I do is I attach the images I currently have that represent the art style I want. So I might attach some character portrait that I've already made, or some cutscene images and such. Because what it means is that assuming, when you, in the instructions, ideally you want to make sure that it refers to the knowledge area and the attached images there. Because what it means is that when it goes to make the image, it can see visually the context of what you're asking it for when you make an image. Because AI isn't always going to make images as good as possible, but by doing this, you reduce the errors or you reduce the likelihood of it going and making things that aren't really as relevant. The next thing as well, which is also really quite important, has helped me a lot, is depending on the game you're making, you might want to put your main character, if you have one, as an image in that knowledge base, because most of the time when I ask it to make a image with the main character, right, I literally say using the main character, it can look at the knowledge base, see the image I've attached, which is literally called main character, by the way, and it will make an image with the main character. So that helps a ton, because I'm not having to drag load the thing in. So that's really useful. So now that I've got that covered, I want to just go into a bit of detail in terms of how I make different types of images. The first thing is character portraits. So when there's a character portrait, I'm looking to do a few things. The first thing is I'm going to ask it to be vertical, right? So, vertical like that. I'm going to ask it to make sure it's a full body portrait, so from head to toe, and I'm going to ask it to make a background, to have a background with the image. Now, this was a big struggle that I ran into, where originally I was asking it to do vertical full body portrait but without a background, because it made sense, because obviously a lot of the times I don't want a background with that character. However, I had an issue where it kept making worse quality portrait images of characters. And when I'd literally look at it making the image, I would see that it was good quality, and then when I made the image, the quality dropped quite a bit. And I had a conversation with the GPT, and there's something in the image model that GPT uses that if you ask it to remove a background or like make an image with the background removed, as a result, it removes quite a bit of the quality with it. Don't ask why that's the case, but I was like, okay. So what you want to do is you want to make sure you keep the quality background for that character portrait. Then you want to remove the background manually after it's made the image, because that way you're going to get far better images. And I'll show a few images here of actually that sort of side-by-side comparison as well. And I know one of the characters that I used to have, which is the Baron in the game. I'll put a side-by-side comparison for the art style. The one on the left is the one where I made it with the background removed, and the one on the right is the one which I made with the background intact, but I removed the background afterwards. So you can see the difference there in just the quality, and it's weird, but little details like that make a huge difference for the game. The next thing is things like cutscenes and such. So for cutscenes, you want to make sure that this is landscape, and you want to make sure, obviously, you're referring to the art style. Now, for things like cutscenes, if you want certain characters in there, I would recommend dragging and dropping them in there as well. So for me, I could include my main character and, for example, the Baron. If I'm going to do that, I want to drag and drop both of those files that I have, and then I want to describe what that cutscene is going to look like. Now, if you're going to have multiple cutscenes in a similar scenario, so let's say in an arena, then you might want to re-drop in arena images, or you might want to ask the GPT to remake images or make another image but in the similar setting so that it's got the context. Because what's most important here is that AI is only as good as the context you give it. If you're not specific enough and you don't give it, for example, the relevant images and the context, that's when more mistakes are going to appear. So overall, that is pretty much the general process that I look at with what I'm doing. And for example, right, one last thing I've just remembered is combat backgrounds. So depending on the type of game you're making, for me, I'm making more of a story-rich and turn-based strategy game. So when I'm making, for example, combat backgrounds, ideally, I want the main character or the character to sit sort of more on the bottom half, and then for the rest of the stuff to be at the top. So in this case, I'll ask the GPT to create whatever background image, but I specifically say to aim to have the bottom half of the image to be flat and relatively empty, and then the top half to be more decorated. That way I can get images like these, which I'll show on the screen, where you can see that the ground is flat enough and open enough for me to put characters on there. So that's generally the process that I use, and it's not terribly complicated once you get into a rhythm of it. And I would really recommend, being able to follow this process and go and make your own custom GPT with this as well, because it's going to save a lot of time. And again, right, you don't need to buy the paid plan if you don't want to at this point. Honestly, if you've just got a free version, just make a few images. You won't be able to make a crazy amount, probably only 2 or 3. And from there, if you're happy with that and you're sort of, you'd like to make more, spending £20 a month, it's definitely worth it. I can make tons and tons of images a day if I'd like. But being able to do that, it's going to save so much time and energy for your game. And again, like I said before, if you're someone that is interested in making a game and you're just sort of looking around in inspiration in terms of what that could look like, or if you're someone who's sort of in the beginning or just in the stages of making your own game at the moment, I'd really recommend this, because especially if you're trying to make a game where there is story, where perhaps there is dialogue and cutscenes, and you want to try and show the story you have, This is definitely something to look into because I've been able to make such good quality images. Um, I'm yet to implement all of this into my demo at the moment, but I've been able to make such good quality images. And the really cool thing as well, which I might do a video on as well, is how I use these images and turn them into videos using sort of websites like Runway. But if you want that video to be done, then obviously I can let you know what that sort of looks like, because that's really cool, because I was able to turn images into videos and use those videos in my game trailer as well. But I'm happy to talk about that in another video if needed. So hopefully you found this useful. If you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them. I understand that you might not get this straight away, but it's going to save a ton of time and it's going to make your game look a lot better if you can get this process in there and get more efficient with the AI images. So that said, hopefully you found this useful, and I'll chat soon.